Alright, so for dual triangle event budget options, first of all, I want to say that I think most people should be good to just get all the gems from this event. If your goal is to just get the gems from this event, that everyone should be able to do this. Because there's quite a lot of loaners in this event now. There's 3 for each group, so you have your options, and some of them are actually pretty decent and should be able to be enough to get you to at least these 2200 medals. You don't have to play in every group. You can get all of your points from one group and be fine. It's just the other groups are for, if you want the titles from them. And maybe there might be some missions tied to fusion summoning or link summoning or synchro summoning, but you don't have to win your duels for that. You can just do whatever, and then even if you lose or you get OTK'd by Tenpai, it's fine. And yeah, if you want to avoid playing against Tenpai all the time, you can also just do all your missions, all your duels within the synchro group, and never have to play against the Tenpai your entire time in this event. So yeah, first let's go over the loaners. And for the synchro loaners, we have Centurion. Now, I know if you're an actual Centurion player, you probably want to gouge your eyes out looking at this list, because Summoner Monk, Photon Thrasher, Summoner Monk, there's only one spell you want to discard off Summoner Monk, which is Wake Up Centurion. Like, when you want to discard Stand Up for Summoner Monk, right? Like, some of these deck builds leave a lot to be desired, but the core concept of the decks that they're trying to accomplish still works. You still have the core of the Centurion deck here. You can still end on your Centurion Synchro, and then you can make Blazar and Crimson Dragon on your opponent's turn, and then you search a trap. So the core gameplay loop of this deck, it still works. It's just that everything else in the deck is kind of ass. There's no reason why they gave you so much of these junk cards, or these ratios like triple Gargoyle, 2 MF. Who, what, why, when? But yeah, one of the advantages of Centurion is that you can run loads of non-engine in the deck. And if you can see, comparing the loaner to my actual Centurion build, I'm running how many hand traps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 17. Yeah, I have 17 hand traps in my deck, and the loaner only gives you 6, because the Summoner Monk and the Photon Thrasher are way more important, because that's what Centurion is lacking. Level 4 non-tuners. That's clearly the bottleneck of the deck. But I mean, yeah, it's fine if you're just trying to get through this event. This loaner should do well for you. Sometimes you won't have enough hand traps to stop your opponent, but I mean, for not having to spend any gems, this is perfectly fine. And Centurion's a very simple deck, very easy to play, so shouldn't be too much trouble, even if you're coming to this deck fresh. Now this deck, Super Heavy Samurai. So I'm not quite sure how well this will work because of the limitations, as in there's one Makaushi now, and they don't even give you... Wait, where's the wagon? Hold up. Related cards. Okay, where's the wagon? Super Heavy Samurai wagon. Okay, oh holy shit, I was tripping there. Okay, yeah, I'm like, did they not? Yeah, okay, so this deck, you have 7-ish starters, maybe 10. Well, you don't have 10 starters because you don't have the Link 1. So Super Heavy Samurai with the ban list plus no Scarecrow might be a bit rough. Also, you don't have many hand traps. You have less hand traps than this round, only 5 hand traps, so this might be a bit of a struggle in all honesty, just because there's gonna be lots of games where you just cannot play the game, because either you go second and you don't open any going second cards like hand traps, or you just don't open a playable monster because there aren't that many. There's 8 playable 1-card starters in your deck, and then if you don't draw these, then it's kind of really rough. But I mean, again, win rate doesn't matter, so you can just as long as you draw playable, and if you open a hand trap going second, and if you resolve your combo going first. Again, the advantage of playing a Synchro Loaner is that you don't have to play against Tenpai, so that might be enough just to put a point in favor of the Synchro decks. And yeah, this is still playable. It's fine. I think the Centurion is probably a better bet. It's more consistent, so in general you'll have less games where you just brick and are unable to play the game. But both these work so far. And then Monodium, again, this build, if you're a reaction Monodium player, this is way too many balls. This is like 3 times as many balls as you realistically need. But you know, without links, you do need to open tuner plus like a non-tuner. So I understand why they max on the balls. It's fine. This deck might be the worst of the 3, depending on the, you know, I think the Centurion Loaner is definitely the best out of the Synchron Loaners, or the Synchro Loaners, and then it's either Super Heavy Samurai, which has consistency issues and like is really bad going second, or this deck, which it's probably, honestly, I think this is better than the Super Heavy Samurai, in all honesty, because this is much more consistent. You have 3 copies of Madnings, and you don't even have, you have more non-engine, because you also run Imperm instead of Gamma. So yeah, all 3, both. Now keep in mind that there's a bit of a learning curve with Monodium, and there's a bit of a learning curve with Super Heavy Samurai, especially without the Link 1, so it's not as cookie cutter like Centurion. It's just 1-card combos. You do the same thing almost every time with every 1-card starter, so this is really simple. It'll get you through without using much brain power. You might have to put a bit more thought into these 2, but if you want to have fun and, you know, play a bit of more combo deck, then these will work as well. And you don't have to worry about playing against Tenpai and just getting blown out every game. So yeah, the Synchron Loaners are pretty alright. Now let's look at the Link Loaners. Whoops, change group. So the Link Loaners, we have the Evil Eye, which honestly, Sergio alone is probably enough to carry you games against like other loaner decks, because this equipped with like a Eye of Selene, I think it makes it untargetable and cannot be destroyed by card effects. So you essentially just build a towers, okay, which is actually kind of rough in like a limited environments if your opponent isn't prepared for it. So yeah, and again, this is very easy. Like, just summon Sergio, get your equips. You can do these link plays if you have extra bodies, and you have like a lot of copies of your extenders, like these cards. But yeah, this is fine. It'll get the job done. You might, against Tenpai, if they don't draw an out, then, you know, they can't, and then they can't get over your tower. So, you know, it's fine there. You can target a special summon monster. So if they have Sang and something, it could be a bit rough, but you know, Sangan is limited, so you have there's just some counterplay at least to that. And for this one, so Tri-Brigade, I actually really like this Tri-Brigade build. Now, if it doesn't have enough non-engine, it doesn't have enough hand traps to my liking, but it's playing the branded cards, which I am a big fan of, because, you know, if you don't know, through your combo, you can dump Mercurier, or you add it with your Tri-Brigade cards, and then you banish Mercurier. Mercurier will add Albion, Shrouder will dump Branded Sword, and then draw a card, and then Mercurier adds back to your hand, and then you can place the Mercurier back for when you search for Volt. So you essentially get 2 free cards by running this engine. It's like a pot of greed. And that would be a lot better if you had more non-engine, more hand traps to draw into. But, you know, it's... for, you know, you didn't build this deck yourself. Konami gave you this deck for free, so you can't expect perfect ratios or anything. Like Tri-Brigade Standoff, don't even know what this card does. The Tri-Brigade Roar is actually a pretty cool card, although maybe not at 3. It's a bit situational, but yeah, it can be used as another interruption. And then they're playing Apex Avian, which comes with Samorg, which I'm not sure of. I don't know how often you can get Samorg plus Appaloosa out, because you're gonna most likely have to pick between one of the 2, and then it's like, I mean, Appaloosa Revolt plus Double Dragon Lord at minimum, pretty decent. Sang and Something is a 1, so you can Shrike the Sang and Something, and then use like 2 to 3 of your Appaloosa charges and go from there. And double Dragon Lords also can remove if they go for a Synchro Monster, you can remove the Synchro Monster of that. So this is okay. This might be liable to get blown out by Tenpai, I will say that, so maybe this will be a bit more rough. But you do have Searchable Crows, which is good to get into fusion decks. Yeah, this is a viable strategy. It just might be a bit underpowered, considering the decks that you might have to play against in the Synchro group. And then this deck. So this deck's really fun. I'm not gonna lie, this deck's really fun, but it's not that great, because at the end of the day, your best end board is gonna be a pseudo towers plus something that pops and like a spell trap or like a monster negate. That's it. And then maybe you can get another pop with Right Hunting Dance. So if you get your full board, you can actually probably beat Tenpai, as like funny as that sounds, because you can just, if you have this just for their one-up Sag and Summoning, and then you hit the Sag and Summoning, then you're actually probably favored, because you can just fly and sting and negate their monsters. Now, they will have something to say about that with their non-engine and their board breakers, and this is why, like, this entire concept of the Bee Trooper, like, I hate how the insect deck has so much anti-synergy. Ragnarok Bloom, first line of text, gives all your insect, plant, and reptile monsters 300 attack, okay? Invincible Atlas, while this Link Summon card has 3,000 or less attack, it is a towers monster. So, essentially, by activating Bloom, you're turning off your towers. Like, what in the hell? Who designed this? Like, what? Did anybody think about the insect cards? Like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's fun. Like, you know, you just get a bunch of insect extenders, then you just go through your Armored Horde lines, and then you use Pugafalena to attach Resonance Insect from your deck, and then Resonance Insect goes to the grave. It's not a once per turn. You summon it out, you banish it, and then is there a Doom Dozer here? Why is there no Doom Dozer? Konami, what the hell is? Okay, whatever. Like, yeah, this deck, in my opinion, this deck is the most fun to play out of the 3 Link Loaners. But yeah, this is the one loaner I can see that might have the most trouble against Tenpai, just because its board is very vulnerable to board breakers or hand traps. And this is like, it's hard to hand trap this deck because your combo is normal summon plus equip a card, so it's hard. You know, it's hard to interact with that with hand traps. And then this deck is just pretty fun, if a little jank you play it. But yeah, it's still doable. You can definitely get all the medals with these 3 Synchro Link Loaners as well. And then for the Fusion Loaners. Okay, so the Fusion Loaners, I will say, I think the Fusion Loaners are the best of the group, the best of the Loaners, especially considering the decks you have to face against. First of all, Ancient Gear. Now, there are too many Ancient Gear monsters in this deck for my liking, because frankly, you only really care about the good ones, like these, Statue, Wyvern, Dark Golem. Like, a lot of these other Ancient Gear monsters are like cards that you... Tanker, I don't really see Tanker played in most modern Ancient Gear lists, I don't think. And instead, you're lacking non-engine. So because you don't have all the board breakers, maybe going second isn't as viable as a strategy, except against exactly Tenpai. But yeah, Chaos Ancient Gear Giant is unaffected by spell and activate effects, can attack. I think this deck has a decent matchup against Tenpai, I've been told. So, because your monsters are actually hard to get rid of. And the trap card, Ancient Gear Golem and Monster Mention in your monsters are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effects. Oh yeah, case in point. Okay, so yeah, if you have something like this, you can make your monsters towers, and all your monsters are huge. They're like over 4,500, or they're like over 4K, over 3K. Like, actually pretty hard for a deck like Tenpai to attack over. So yeah, this deck doesn't match up very bad. Doesn't match up poorly against probably the best and most played deck that's going to be played in this event. So yeah, Ancient Gears, and then you have Colossus. You have Thunder Dragons, which makes Colossus, and Colossus is also a bitch for Tenpai to play through, especially when with their lower lack of starters in the decks. So like it shuts off Sang and something, it shuts off I believe Hydra, Sang and Kaiman. It's limited to 1, so you can't just enter battle phase and then special. No, actually it turns off Kaiman too because it adds and then special summons. So yeah, this Colossus just shuts off a huge portion of Tenpai. So this is actually a pretty good card to end on. Maybe not 1. Maybe you have to end on more than 1. Like if you could get to this, I think this deck is capable of making multiple Colossi. So if that's the plural, so you can make like 2, maybe 3 Colossus in a good hand, and then as long as they don't have droplets, then I think you'll be Gucci because they can't board wipe this because they have protection, and then 1 imperm isn't gonna do it when you have multiple Colossus, and then it's just usually it'll be enough disruption to where they have to open like exact combo pieces to be able to OTK you through multiple Colossus, I think. So yeah, and then obviously going second options, it has droplet for the Edge Chain engine. I think all the fusion decks have the Edge engine for Guardian Chimera going second, so that's pretty neat as well. And yeah, the Thunder Dragons. I think this deck is also probably one of the more simpler ones to play. I know Ancient Gear is great as a 1-star, but I think more people are familiar with what Thunder Dragon monsters do than what Ancient Gear monsters do, and the game plan is not too difficult. I mean, you can just tell by the extra deck, like it's I mean, it's pretty straightforward what this deck is wanting you to do. So yeah, and then Shaddoll. Shaddoll is also so Shaddoll has another it's similar to Thunder Dragon. Shaddoll has another floodgate, which is El Shaddoll Winda, which also will shut down Tenpai if they don't have the out to this. So yeah, and I think with the 2 Winda now, you can do lines where you set a Winda on your you hard summon a Winda, and then force them to have the out to deal with it, and then once they use their out for Winda, you can then make a second Winda with Shaddoll Schism after they already expend their out, and then hopefully that should be enough to floodgate them out of the game. Yes, what do you do when you are playing an underpowered deck without all the URs and all the non-engine, all the proper ratios? You play floodgates, and definitely, I think Konami understood the assignment when designing these fusion loaner decks, because even though they're maybe underpowered, the great equalizers are these floodgate extra deck boss monsters that even the playing field. So yeah, and especially for among all 3 groups, I think especially if you don't own a fusion deck, that definitely look into playing the loaner fusion decks, because the loaners, again, I think the fusion deck loaners are the strongest overall out of the 3 groups, and probably the one with the least amount of budget decks if you don't actually own a fusion deck itself. So yeah, the loaners are definitely good options, especially for the fusion group. Alright, if My Girl and Moye, so basically any time synchros are legal in an event, you have to mandatory include some sort of Swordsoul build as a budget option, just because this deck is literally free. Like, I mean, you literally have the entire Swordsoul core for free. Everyone should own this core, so of course we're going to list it as a budget option, and then the rest is just to try to fill out after the core, so it's just trying to fill out the rest of whatever non-engine you possibly have. And again, I know there's a bunch of one-ofs in here, which is like Valor, Ash, Imperm, Lightning Storm, Tactics, Droplets. The point is, these are all from bundle packs. So if you have multiple copies of these, like if you have 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, I recommend you run 3 Ash, 3 Imperm. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing the absolute minimum of, like, if you somehow you don't even have extra copies of staples, then at least, the very least, these are basically at least the ones from the bundles, which most people, you should be getting the bundles as you progress in your account. But yeah, most people's decks will look better than this. The random other stuff like Trolls, and like I probably might not consider running Lightning Storm, to be honest, and like possible Nibiru's or like Trolls, like if you have actual staples and you have actual multiple copies of these staples, then you should run them over the random stuff I have in here. Your deck will look a lot better than this. This is just like the minimum. So the Swordsoul core, I mean, it's 3 Moye, 2 Taya, 3 Ecclesia, 3 Longyuan, 3 Emergence, at least 1 Blackout, and then that's basically it. Like, that's the minimum. You have to run those mentioned cards, otherwise the Swordsoul just isn't actually a deck that's playable. And I'm running an extra copy of Desires because you probably want consistency, especially without any links. So I'm still running the 10E package. Now, if you own the Super Heavy Samurai package, then like obviously you would probably run the Super Heavy Samurai cards over the 10E cards, but like the Super Heavy Samurai cards are the exact opposite of budget. So if you still want to run, if you want to play this as a budget option, then you probably want to run the 10Es, because you need worms. Even if you don't have Monk of the 10E to link these off into, you still need worms to reveal for your Swordsoul monster. You need one for Moya, you need one for Longa, you still need worms. And of them, Ashuna is the best one, because Ashuna is live as soon as you resolve one of your Swordsoul effects to make a token. Then you can use Ashuna to summon any of these 10Es from deck. So it's still valuable to have this. And then these are just the 1-up 10Es that you search off the Ashuna. And also Heavenly Dragon Circle, you could bump this up to 3. This plus any 10E monster still gets you to Moye still, at the very least. And you can use this to dodge in perm on the Moye as well if you happen to open Moye. But yeah, and then you'll see, notice I'm running 7 Bestials. Okay, so first of all, if you own a Bestial Magnamut, play Magnamut. I'm just saying that Magnamut is a UR, so I'm not including it, because at least these are all SR, so these are a lot less costly on a budget than Magnamut would be. But the idea is, with these non-fusion decks, like you'll see this in some of my link budget options as well, but you're going to be playing against fusion decks, especially if you're playing Synchro, because that's one of the advantages of playing Swordsoul. You're playing Synchro, and you don't have to play against other Synchro decks like Tenpai or Centurion. So you're going to be playing against a lot of fusion decks. And fusion decks, the most popular ones, I guarantee you, are going to be hella weak to Bestials. Like, what's it called? Tearlaments and Branded, those get absolutely destroyed by Bestials. And Tearlaments, I think, is definitely going to be, you can book it. Tearlaments is going to be the most popular fusion deck. So the easy way for anyone to get, like, I won't say free wins, but to have a better matchup against Tearlaments is to just run as many Bestials as you can. Because they only have 2 names, and they don't have access to link monsters. So it's really all they have to do are their fusions. So if you just open Bestials and Bestial them every turn, then they can't win. So yeah, you can win games, solo games, with just Bestials off of like versus Tier in this event, in my opinion. So that's why we're running these Bestials. These just destroy the most common fusion matchup you're gonna face. And if anyone decides to play Branded gets hurt even more by this, because they only have 1 Albaz. Oh yeah, and then yeah, that's pretty much it for the main deck. The extra deck is just whatever level 8 and level 10 synchros you have. So I have a list of UR synchros that would greatly improve the deck if you happen to own these. Like Omega, Greco Berserker, Dragite, Packbit, Chowfang for certain line, although without link monsters this doesn't really come out as much anymore, so this isn't really necessary. Egerine, Dispater, Chaos Angel, because you're running Bestial, so you can actually make Chaos Angel in this build, and then Psychic and Punisher. Oh, and I guess Callback Grave. Callback Grave is technically not in a bundle, so you might not own this, but I think most people would own this, so this is another staple you can run in the main deck. But yeah, having access to any of these UR synchros greatly improves your extra deck. Since, for the most part, this is just a bunch of random filler, or half this extra deck is just a bunch of random filler. You have the 2 Chi-Xiaos from the structure deck. You have Baron. Again, if you don't have a Baron, get a Baron. You're probably going to need it sometime in the future, but having a Baron really improves his extra deck. And then Longyuan and Sinister's Qixing are both from the structure deck. And then the rest of these are just random SRs. So like Leo is a level 10 SR synchro. You are running 3 Baxia, because if you don't have the other UR options, then you can go through 3 Baxia in a duel. So it's nice to have. It's the best level 8 synchro you have. You have White. You have Crimson Blader, which also very brutal against fusion decks. Like, you don't even necessarily have to have Engine to beat fusion decks, but if you just have Bystials plus going into Crimson Blader to floodgate them, essentially debarrier them the next turn, and that's enough too. Cyberse Quantum Dragon, this bounces a card at the end of damage step, so maybe this is like a random out to stuff like Borderland Dragon, if you even get that far, which you probably won't be if they get all the way to Borderland Dragon, but you know, it's a thing. And then Odd Ice Meter Burst, not as relevant because you're not going to play against Tenpai because you're a Synchro deck, but it's there. And then like double Yazi, because this is the best. Honestly, you're probably not going to go into these other level 7s, so having Yazi as an option is nice because Yazi summons Taya or summons any worm monster from deck, as well as being removal. So, and you can make this using Ashuna summoning an Adara from deck, and then Adara plus any Longan or Adara plus any Bestial makes Yazi, and then Yazi gets you essentially full combo because Itali is a Swordsoul monster from deck. So yeah, this is Swordsoul. This is a structure deck plus whatever. Essentially, a recurring theme for budget decks is going to be structure deck plus whatever random staples you have. Put in your best staples and then fill it out, and then that should suffice for most budget decks. Now, speaking of structure decks, the other good synchro-based structure deck is Blackwings. So why don't we play these? Now, it's not free like the Swordsoul structure deck. You do have to pay for these in the shop, but it's like 500 per copy, so it's not the most expensive thing in the world. And most of these URs, I think every UR I'm showing on screen right now that's Blackwing related can be found in the structure deck, I believe. Yeah, Blackwing is probably good thing, because you probably want 3 of this. Now, here's the problem with Blackwings is that Konami, being trolls that they are, excluded a couple key cards from the Blackwing structure deck that are URs and are important to the Blackwing strategy, which I don't know why. Like, did someone forgo or something, like to make a budget deck of this? Like to make a budget deck from a structure deck, but then exclude URs, so you have to roll from the main pack. It's like kind of odd. I don't think you have to do that for the other structure decks, but you know, I'll go over those cards when we get to them. So this is missing a bit of power level. Like, it's not completely, like, you don't have the exact core, or you don't have the full core if you just buy 3 structures, which is kind of annoying. So these are mostly standard ratios. I've been looking around, so you have 1 Orochi, Sharinga, Harmattan. By the way, I don't know how to play this deck, but there are many resources online about how to play Blackwings. You can look on Discord, you can look at Master Duel Meta, YouTube. You just need to know like the basic combos, which I believe stem from starters like Suji, Samoon. Yeah, Suji gets Black Feather Whirlwind, Samoon gets Black Whirlwind, Shamal gets Black Feather Whirlwind as well. So these are like your main starters, and Vata is your main extender. You can special summon if you control a Blackwing monster. So these are the ones you want to draw. So you're maxing out on these 3, maxing out on these 4, and then these are cards, Blackwings that you access during your combo. This you summon this. It makes a synchro and it has an interruption engrave if you control a Blackwing synchro monster, which you will. Then Zephyros, you guys don't know what Zephyros does, and yeah, the 1 Chinook and 1 Magical Broker, because you need a Small World Bridge, and I'm sure there are other Small World Bridges. This is the one that works for everything because it's a level 3 Dark, and I don't believe any of the main deck monsters are level 3. So yeah, that means that anything bridges into anything for Magical Broker. You can also bridge an Ash into Magical Broker as well. So yeah, Small World gives you additional 3 starters, and then 3 Black Whirlwind and 2 Black Feather Whirlwind, and the 1 Twin Shadow, the trap. Now here's and again, the non-engine is basically whatever non-engine you own. So I'm showing like examples, like Valor, Ash, Imperm, Droplets. These are and Nibiru, Tactics. These are all from bundles. So if you have extra copies of these, like you have more Ash, you probably want to play more Ash. If you have more Imperms, you want to play more Imperms. And then also Bystials. Again, we're going with the the same concept as the last deck, where you're going to be playing against a lot of fusion decks, and fusion decks get killed by Bystials, so just jamming a bunch of Bystials in your deck just gives you a huge advantage against the fusion matchups, which is why we're playing these. And obviously, if you own the Magnema, you would play the Magnema as well. It's just that all of these Magnemas, out of all the Bystials, is the only one that's a UR. So, yeah, now here are unfortunately, the extra deck is where you'll find some of the cards lacking from the structure deck. So first of all, no fun. This is not in the structure deck, and it's just hella annoying because this is crucial to your deck. Like, you need to run one of this. So not having this, it's still playable, but your combos are gonna be a lot worse. So if you're interested in playing Blackwings, like if you wanted to buy the 3 of the structure to actually play Blackwings, you probably want to invest in one no fun as UR craft as well for the deck. And you notice I have a bunch of random dark synchros in here just because Blackwings dark lock you, so you're mainly going to dark synchros, and all these random stuff are just filler. You wouldn't normally run these, except maybe like a Q belt or something, but the replacements options are all URs in terms of the dark synchros, so Draco Berserker, Hot Red, Dissipator, and Chaos Angel. If you own these, feel free to put them in. These will greatly improve your extra deck. But as for budget options, obviously these are not exactly budget if you're looking for that. And the Blackwing Full Armor Master. So this depends when you start playing, because they gave out a free Royal Black Armor Master way back when. I don't know how back when, but if you played during that time, then you will have this. However, if you didn't play back then you won't have this, and it's also in the structure deck. So Konami being trolls again, giving you a limited time Royal UR that's also kind of semi-important for the Blackwing deck. Not as important as No Fun, but it's still nice to have, especially if you're looking just to fill out the deck. And then 3 Blackwing Assault Dragon. This is the Masquerade. It's like 700 whenever your opponent activates or resolves the card effect, so you can get 3 of these out on your turn 1 combo sometimes, and then your opponent can activate 3 cards before they can't activate cards anymore. You also have 2 Boreas Storm and 2 Blackwing Dragon, and yeah, these are the only crucial monsters in the extra deck: the Boreas Storm, the Blackwing Assault Dragon, and the Blackwing Dragon. Everything else is like just filler stuff, placeholders for the URs that you don't have. So yeah, obviously you can't play Kali Yuga and you can't play the Link versions because this is a Synchro event, so you have to play like pure. But yeah, little bit more expensive than Swordsoul, but still not the worst. Now, of course, much like Swordsoul with Synchros, anytime Link decks are allowed in an event, you have to look at Marincess for budget options, because again, classically, you can play this entire core without needing any URs. There's a few URs in here, which I'll go over the importance of these later, but you don't actually need these URs in here to actually play this deck as a functional deck, because this just changes the end board. Like Aqua Argonaut, it's a negate, so that's important though. I will get into that later, but you can always just end on more Great Bubble Reefs, and this is just Heat Soul to draw cards, and you are drawing non-engine. So the core is very simple, very cheap, all SRs. Mandarin, Seahorse, Extender, Blue Tang, NBT, 3 NBT, 3 Pascalis, just a normal summon extender, and then 3 Springgrow, your best extender, the only extender that doesn't require you to actually control a monster. So potentially save this for last if you have multiple extenders. Sleepy Maiden, you can run this now because you're not worried about getting destroyed by Cashiera monsters, so you can play this. Although if you don't have Aqua Argonaut, this is actually less important, because the main play this enables is you to equips a Marincess monster to Aqua Argonaut while you don't have Battle Ocean, so you still get the spell and trap negate. But if you don't have a Great Bub, or if you don't have Aqua Argonaut, then this could be another Mandarin, for example, instead. Or Basil Lalima as another level 4. Although this is not as important, because this is mainly to play against destruction-based effects, like Fire King or Pernician Princess or stuff like that, which aren't really in the format. So, and Vanquish Soul, which also you're not going to play against because it's a Link-based deck. And you have Desires. I think Desires is fine. This if you banish Battle Ocean, it is what it is. But if you have a way to search Battle Ocean, you can just search Battle Ocean first and play Desires after. You know, you get your 1-ups out of your deck before activating Desires if you're able to, or if you're not able to, then obviously you just use Desires anyways, because that means you didn't have a playable hand, so you want to draw 2. Silent Mining. These are from the structure deck, in case you were wondering, the Salad Mangrave structure deck, so you don't have don't be freaked out that this is a UR. 2 dive, 1 ocean, and then I'm running 2 wave. If you have Coral Triangle, you probably don't need to run 2 wave, because Coral Triangle basically searches wave. But if you don't have Coral Triangle, like you don't want to make any URs for this deck, then maybe consider going up to 3 wave just so you can hard draw, because this card's insane. Imperm from hand, that also, of course, Imperm from hand. That's what Imperm means, dude. Yeah. Anyways, it makes all your monsters towers for the turn. So yeah, that's no people who don't play against Marincess often will forget that part, and then they'll play into it thinking your monsters can be killed by stuff, which they can't. And for the non-Inna, so the Bestials are the same philosophy for the Synchro based decks, where like you're playing against fusions. It's very good to just have Bestials. Like you can solo matchups just by opening multiple Bestials sometimes. And the other stuff looks a bit weird. So you notice you have Ash, Valor, Imperm. If you have more copies of these cards, you should run them. But again, these are all UR, so I'm not going to assume everyone has every copy of every hand trap. Same with the Magnamut and Callbite, but yeah, if you have these, you can just fill out your deck with these instead of what we have here. But here, this is like to take advantage of the fact that you're always going second versus Tenpai, which is going to be the most played Synchro deck, I imagine. So if you can take advantage of the fact that you're always going to go first, you can play more powerful non-Ninjas, such as counter traps or like traps specifically to deal with Tenpai when you know you're not going to be dead, because you know you're going to be going first versus that matchup. So for example, Solemn, which is also from a bundle, Solemn, and then Draco Utopian Aura, which is essentially just another copy of Solemn Strike, or it's a copy of Strike, except Draco Utopian Aura is from, as you can see, the Galaxy Eye structure deck. So instead of actual Strike, where you have to craft actual Strike as a UR, you can just get these from a structure deck, and it's probably cheaper for you that way. And yeah, basically just stop their normal summon and they should pass. The problem with this strategy is that obviously if they go for board breakers instead of hand traps, which might be popular, you're gonna probably lose to board breakers using counter traps like these, which is unfortunate. You could, potentially run other things like what counter traps negate like board breakers, right? Am I talking like Magic Jammer or Dark Bribe? Maybe Dark Bribe might be worth it as like a budget option to stop all of the stuff, like to stop the red reboots, stop the heavy storms and all that stuff, to like keep your counter traps live against that matchup. Because it doesn't matter if they have extra cards in hand. If you hit their normal summon and they don't control any more cards, then they can't really extend beyond that either, unless they drew their 1-of Sangan Kaiman, which is it's at 1, so better have it. Or if they have like if they're running Code Sark for Blaster and to add Genroku, I guess sure. If they want to spend go that hard and actually craft Blaster for this event, I guess better have it then. But yeah, if you can just hit their first summon and they don't have to control any fire monsters, it's actually often it's a very strong play, and you can often end their turns that way. But that obviously assumes that your traps live, so it is not a flawless strategy, but it's probably better than like going with budget options if you don't have all the UR hand traps, like I don't like Chalice or something. Droplet's also nice because Droplet you can send the monsters that are equipped to your Marincess Link monsters under Battle Ocean, so this is often free and it can hit multiple targets for free. And the thing is, you have to be careful when playing back row in Marincess, because you're equipping up to 3 monsters on Battle Ocean, so you don't want to clog your monsters zones. right? You don't want to clog your back row zones with equipped monsters if you have multiple cards to set. So for example, just keep track of how many cards you actually have to set. Like if you have 2 counter traps and like Marincess Wave, don't equip all 3 monsters from Battle Ocean, because then you don't have enough back row slots to use all your back row, right? Only equip 2 in that case. That way you can set 2 of your counter traps and still leave a room open for Marincess Wave. So yeah, just be careful of that. And for the extra deck, 2 Blue Slug, 2 Sea Angel. This searches your dive or Battle Ocean. These are the pretty standard ratios. Coral Anemone, Crystal Heart. Very important to make your Link monster unaffected by your opponent's cards, so he doesn't get just wiped by board wipes all the time. And there's not the only kaiju that's legal is Santa Claus. I think all the other kaijus are banned. Yeah, all the other kaijus are banned. So the only thing they have is Santa Claus. So if your opponent doesn't know about this, because they didn't check the ban list, then there aren't really kaijus to out your towers like monsters. But I mean, if there are, better have Santa Claus, I guess. Slash Mage, Area. So Area is the only one that doesn't need 2 water monsters in your extra deck, so you can link off, say, a Bestial, specifically, importantly, Druid's Worm to help break the board as well. Marble Rock, 2 Bubble Reef, especially run 2 Bubble Reef if you don't have these URs, and for the UR. So I think the URs actually make this feel from a decent budget deck to one of the better link decks you can play. Because Coral Triangle, it adds wave, so that's nice. That's follow up. And Zealantis, we all know what Zealantis does. It after you waterlock yourself, you banish your entire field. You banish your opponent's field permanently unless they have water monsters. And I doubt there's gonna be many other water decks you play against. So it's basically just a full banish board wipe. And Aqua Argonaut is I think one of the makes Marincess, full power Marincess, one of the better link decks in this format, because it's one of the few link decks that has access to a real negate. Because most link based decks, if you look at all the good generic link monsters like Appaloosa, IP, SP, none of those are spell and trap negates, which means that you get blown out by board breakers from Tenpai. If you have access to Aqua Argonaut, you have a monster that's it's usually unaffected either with Wave or Battle Ocean, so it doesn't die to their board wipe, so you don't have to worry about getting baited by stuff like Dark Hole or Raigeki. And 2, it negates spell and trap, so it negates another board wipe too, besides the monster destruction one. So this can help protect. This works with the strategy of playing counter traps too, because you can protect your power go first cards from Tenpai's board wipes, and then if they can't get rid of these, then they're probably not going to be able to play through them. So, yeah, Marincess is legitimately not only one of the best budget decks, but actually one of the better decks in general for this. One of the better link decks in general for this event. And I would have included it in the first video where I went over the best decks, but I also wanted, obviously you wanted to highlight the fact that Marincess is pretty budget, first and foremost. Alright, so now let's move on to the Cybozos, a blind second deck that aims to kill your opponent with Firewall Dragon, Dark Fluid Terahertz, either by it sending multiplication to the grave, thus giving it 11k attack, or by co-linking this to a G-Golem Crystal Heart, which then you just dump an Earth monster, that will give this 6100 attack, double attacking plus piercing, which also lets you OTK through defense position monsters. So, I know what you're thinking. Isn't it a bit of an issue that you're playing a blind second deck when the most common deck you're expecting to face, being Tenpai, is also a blind second deck, so half the time you just lose the coin flip, quote unquote lose the coin flip, and you're made to go first? I don't think that's an issue. I think this might be a bit of copium, but stay with me for a bit, but I think this deck has one of the better matchups against Tenpai in general, and it's a budget deck. So the idea is, obviously, when you go second, Tenpai is just not gonna, you're just gonna kill them. But when you're made to go first against Tenpai, you make Dark Fluid, Firewall Dragon, Dark Fluid, Neo Terahertz, okay? But you make this with Gachiri Adagnister. This is searchable through Small World, and this is searchable through Format Skipper, importantly. So this makes you can, when this is sent to the graveyard, you can target a face-up monster you control, and that is unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of your opponent's turn. So you make a Terahertz with a Chiri adding Nister, and now you have an unaffected Terahertz for the entire duration of your opponent's turn. And what does Tenpai do against Terahertz? It does absolutely nothing. Like, it literally can't do anything. Negate any monster effects activated by your opponent during the battle phase. First line of text. So literally, your Tenpai opponent is floodgated out of the entire game, and it's unaffected. So those board breakers you have, those droplets, those none of that shit works. Okay, the only thing that works is Santa Claus. Okay, if your opponent is on Santa Claus, okay, cool. I guess they have to outdo it. They better have it. But this is literally only out to a unaffected Terahertz, and you can do this without any URs, as you can see. Literally, you just need to use the Gachiri to make the Terahertz. And you're actually probably, arguably, even better off going first versus Tenpai than, you know, going second. But obviously, you're gonna blind second because you're not gonna know if you're playing against Tenpai or not. And going first against any other deck is a bit disastrous. But going first against Tenpai, actually not much of an issue. Now, if that's theory, because obviously I haven't played this yet. This event isn't live, but you know, if in practice it's a little more rough, you know, let me know. But I generally think that this is a very good strategy, specifically in a Tenpai heavy format. So, yeah, we'll go over the main options. Obviously, so Elephant in the Room, if you own Circular, obviously play Circular, okay? Circular is a UR, so I'm not going to expect everyone to have it, especially since, you know, there's a reason people don't really like MathMech in the first place, so not everyone owns MathMech. Obviously, if you have Circular, play the MathMech engine, play Circular. You should know what those are if you own a Circular, probably. So, yeah, and then the other options, you know, like access code, you actually don't need access code for this. Like, straight up, most of the time, it's better to go for Terahertz OTK than going for access code OTK with Update Jammer, because this is more access Update Jammer is vulnerable to more things than Terahertz, honestly. So it's actually better to go for. So you don't need this at all, really. And Link Decoder is obviously very nice. Link Decoder is probably the most important card in the extra deck that's a UR that you might not have, because it basically, for the link rating of all your big monsters, it reduces the link rating by 1. So, or the number of monsters needed by 1, essentially. It makes Terahertz essentially only need a link 4 amount of material instead of a link 5, because this is free, it arrives itself back. Same with, you know, access code if you run that. And, you know, you make Transcode talk with this, it arrives itself, that's the, you know, usual play. But yeah, and then Almirage is not really needed. There's plenty of Cyberse Link 1s that you can make with Cyberse monsters that aren't Almirage. This is more so for non-Cyberse decks, which, you know, for hand traps, which, as you can see, we're not running any because we're blinding second. So, yeah, I call Heavy Storm is nice, but, you know, that's... And Duster by extension, but there are replacements for these, as we'll go over. So, free format Skipper, this is like your best normal summon. You reveal one of these, doesn't really matter. You link it off into, usually you link off into like a Baylings, you know, to add the Sanctuary, and then format Skipper, when it's linked off, you get to add a level 5 or higher Cyber. So you either add Nister or Parallel Exceed, depending on what you need. If you need extenders, you add Parallel Exceed, this gives you 2 bodies later on, or if you already have enough bodies, then you go for Kachiri to make whatever the final thing you make unaffected. And obviously, if you're going first, you need this to search Kachiri. We're running the Salad Mangre cards. The reason why is because I think Salad cards are a great engine, just generic Cyber support. Gazelle is a 1 Cyberse monster for 2 bodies. So like you special Gazelle, and then you dump Spinny, and then that gives you 2 bodies for 1 monster. And it's an extender. It doesn't require a normal summon like other monsters in the deck, because you're always making Baylings as your first link 1. So you're searching Sanctuary, and then you're just linking off the Baylings. And when you link off the Baylings, then the Gazelle you can just special summon the Gazelle. That's a free extender that gives you 2 bodies. That gives you 2 extenders, essentially. And at worst, if you don't have other plays, you can also normal summon this. It also works, and it gives you 2 bodies, so that's fine. Yeah, and I'm playing the Sanctuary because for budget options, we're going for double Heat Leo in the extra deck. So Heat Leo, it has an effect that can reduce the opponent's monster's attack, which is dice, because a lot of your Cyberse monsters have very low attack if any attack. But also, if this card is Link Summon, you can target a card in your Spoon Spell Trap Zone and shuffle it into the deck. So with this package with Sanctuary, you can actually climb up into a Helio and clear 2 back row from your opponent first. Yeah, you can clear up to 2 back row with this before you commit to the play, and then you can even use the Helio as material to link into the Dark Fluid, because Dark Fluid needs 3 Cyberse monsters, and Helio plus any 2 Cyberse bozos gets you terahertz after clearing potentially 2 back row. So this baits out. It helps you play through interaction. It's very nice, and you need to run the salad cards, because the salad cards are your fire effect monsters in order to make this with. And of course the mirror, because we are playing triple circle to add the Gazelle. You add the mirror as a secondary search target in case you already have access to Gazelle with circle. And then the next engine is Defensor. This is the best normal summon, because this Defensor gets you 3 bodies by itself, I believe. So you normal Defensor, link it off, it gets you the Guardian. You link off the Guardian revives itself back. So that's 1 card for 3 Cyberse bodies, which is like full column by itself. This makes a 5 terahertz alone, even if you don't have Link Decoder. Oh yeah, this is very important. It also, of note, if you can't make an unaffected terahertz and you made it go first, this also does protect your terahertz from card destruction. So like if it's not unaffected, but they try to regate your Dark Hole you, this can protect your terahertz. And also, yeah, you don't even have to start with this. You can use terahertz just to send Defensor in response to one of those board wipes and save it. So yeah, it's Parallel Exceeds, a Cherry. Then the blind second cards, these are the budget options. Dark Hole, the 1 Raigeki you get for free, the Lightning Storm you get from a bundle, Verdant Droplets, and Twin Twisters as back row and like more monster negation. So the neat thing is about this, you can run more copies of Dotscaper, and then you can actually pitch Dotscaper. You can pitch Mailmine for these, and these have grave effects. Obviously Dotscaper, it just revives itself, but Mailmine is if a Link 2 or monster you control is sent to the graveyard or banished, you can banish this card and then return a monster, return any card to hand. So it helps you play through boards. And obviously you're gonna have a Link 2 monster sent to the grave. That's kind of what this deck does. It Link summons, and it's also just a free extender as well. And also this is it's a dark Cyberse level 2. So this literally bridges into most things. Okay, it doesn't bridge into Defensor actually. You have to go for a different Cyberse monster like Format Skipper to bridge into Defensor, which is fine. But yeah, you can small roll bridge almost any monster into any other monster in this deck. Not that you would want to for some of them, but you have the option. Of course, Silent Money cannot actually search, exceed, or add into Gachiri. That's why we're running a 3 Format Skipper. And yeah, the 3 circles mentioned for the Gazelle. And then the extra deck, again, if you own these 2, you can play them in place of some random text here. So Gazelle or Phalanx, Lingaribo for back row. Kotalker is just generic Link 2. Security Dragon bounces a card of co-link, so it's pretty nice. Update Jammer, not as important if you don't run access code, but this has an effect on field too. When it attacks, it negates all card effects on the field until the end of the damage step. So does, funnily enough, do something to Tempai sometimes. Sonic Wolf to help bridge into Helio, and also can bridge into the Heat Soul. Not that you want to go into Heat Soul often, because you want to mostly kill your opponent, but you can go into Heat Soul pre-Terahertz for a draw and then go into Terahertz. That also works. Brute Enforcer, this is just removal, and your opponent can negate it, but I mean, you usually make this if you have like a Dotscaper or Mailmine in hand, so you can just have a free discard and then get a free body, and then sometimes they can pop a card. Splash Mage, Deagle, Prison Heart, these are obvious. Transcode. Pit Knight early, so you can link, if you have enough bodies, you can link Pit Knight early to the Dark Fluid, and then make your opponent's monster 0 out while using the Dark Fluid effect, so it guarantees that any attack position monster, you will OTK them through it. And yeah, Helios, the Heat Soul, and yeah, so Cyberse. Very, very cheap, no URs necessary at all in the main deck. Alright, so for fusions specifically, I actually had a really tough time coming up with any sort of a decent budget deck, and this is maybe probably the best you can come up with. Fortunately, as I went over earlier, the loaners for the fusion group are really good, and in fact are maybe arguably the best loaners in the out of the loaner pool. So you don't, at worst case scenario, if you don't want to build anything and like you don't want to pay the gems to buy 3 ninja structure decks, just play a loaner, you'll be fine. It might even honestly be even better than just a custom build like ninja list. But anyways, ninja is probably like the only fusion archetype that could be considered budget, honestly, because fusion archetypes are some of the most expensive decks in the entire game for some reason. Between branded tier, even stuff like Chimera, Dynamorphia, everything's so fucking expensive. Oh yeah, and the Runix too. Runix has a ton of viewers as well. So yeah, ninjas is like the most budget option out of all of them. And the problem with ninjas is that one, ninjas have a link monster too, which you can't play, and the link is pretty important for the deck. And number 2 is that there's gonna be if you're playing as Tenpai, which you will be because you're a fusion deck, there's gonna be a lot of board breakers, and ninja is a very backdoor heavy deck, as you can tell. So at least this is like how down bad I am. I put in a copy of White Dragon Ninja just to fight the board wipes, to fight the lightning storms, the dusters, and the heavy storms. At the very least, there's an option, even though this isn't even that good, and you're wasting like a transformation to summon White Dragon Ninja, but you can protect your back row. And at least when you're made to go first, you have 6 copies of Book of Moon, and potentially run Solemns, because if you expect to go first, and Cosmic Cyclone is for when you face other when you face other synchro decks like Centurion. This is pretty good against Centurion, and the board wipes like Spell Trap rule doesn't work against Centurion because like Zilla protects their back row, but it doesn't protect from Cosmic Cyclones. You can cosmic their field spell stand up, or you can just Book of Moon or Book of Eclipse your entire field and then turn off the stand up that way as well. That also works. That lets you play into them a bit. And yeah, these are just standard ratios for ninja decks. 3 Tobari, 3 Mitsu. Everything here is from a structure, so that's nice. At least it's not like the Blackwing structure deck where you have to go outside of it. Everything here is self-contained. No URs are from outside. And 3 Hanzo, 1 of each of Green, Ninja, Baku, and Kagero. These are like your toolbox that you can special summon. 2 Big Daddy Geo, the basically double Book of Moon every turn. And no, not just double Book of Moon, actually it's better than that. It's fucking double Quaking Mirror Force. And unfortunately they banned the Ruma Karma Cannon for this event because the Ruma Karma Cannon is actually very broken versus Tenpai, so they gotta let the rogue deck have its time in the limelight, right? Tenpai. And yeah, reinforcements, 6 books. You can run Lunar as well, but Lunar is by far the worst of the 3 books, so just these 6 are probably fine. The Eclipse as mentioned for Centurion matchup and stuff like that. These are bundles, obviously. I'm putting in Solemn Warnings here and Adjustment. If you have more copies of Ash, which you probably do, or more copies of Imperm, which you probably do, run those over these cards probably. Although Solemn is fine. I think you should run Solemn, even if you only have the bundle one, because again, there's going to be a lot of board breakers. And if you have 3 Solemn Judgment, I would recommend running 3 Solemn as well. And then the 1 Duplication, and then the 3 Dancing Leaves. And the extra deck is just 3 Yaguramaru and 3 Maizen, and then the rest is just Super Poly targets, which, if you're a budget player, you probably don't even have Super Poly because it's just UR. But if you do, this is literally every single Super Poly target I think I could think of that might be relevant to come up. So, yeah. Again, at the end of the day, this is not spectacular, and it's cheap because it's structure deck, but it's not free. So if you really want to, if you don't care about building your own deck and you're not interested in playing ninjas, then go ahead and play the Loner Fusion decks. There's nothing wrong with those. So yeah, if you don't own a real Fusion, Synchro, or Link deck, hopefully this video has helped you find a potential budget option for each of these groups. And worst comes to worst, you can just play a Loner. These Loners are mostly fine. You should be able to get all the gems with them. Might take a bit longer, but you can always wait until near the end of the event as well to do this, so that all the serious players and all the Tenpai players, will have already finished by then, and then you'll only queue against other people that are down bad as well. Well, yeah. Obviously, let me know if you guys have any other ideas for budget decks. Leave them in the comments so that anyone viewing this video also can look at the comments as well to find potentially even more options. It's all about helping the community out, you know. Whenever there's free gems, let's just help get everyone get these gems. And if you do own a real Fusion Synchro Link deck, go check out the other video I made on the potentially best decks for this format that will dominate this format. That's not just Tenpai, but obviously Tenpai has to be included there.